Hello, I'm Lana Hechtman Ayers, Managing Editor for MoonPath Press, and I am delighted to welcome you this afternoon where I am, and I hope it's a lovely day where you are, to the book release reading for Mostly Sweet, Lovely Human Things by Marie Marchand and Pockets by Shawn Aveningo Sanders. Marie's poems look deeply into everything it means to be human and a creature in this universe. Shawn's poems are wry, tender, hopeful. Both poets reveal the beauty and promise of every ordinary existence and how they are extraordinary after all. Poetry connects us to one another, bridging our differences by demonstrating how much we share the same hopes for ourselves and our loved ones, how we suffer the same losses and strive to make our lives meaningful. Embracing poetry and all the arts are the true hallmarks of a society that embraces the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity. Our first reader is Marie Marchand. Here's a little bit about Marie. A Pushcart Prize nominee, Marie Marchand served as the inaugural Poet Laureate of Ellensburg, Washington from 2022 to 2024. Her poetry has appeared in numerous journals, including Poetry Ireland Review, Catamaran Literary Reader, and California Quarterly. Previous books of hers include Gifts to the Attentive and Pink Sunset Luminaries. Marie is a graduate of the Naropa University and the Iliff School of Theology, not sure I pronounced that correctly, where she studied psychology, religion, and peacemaking. Marie says of herself, she's been writing poetry for 35 years to capture beauty in language and imagery to find healing for herself and the world. She enjoys living on the sunny side of Washington with her two rescued min pins, Benny and June. Welcome, Marie. Please unmute and read for us.
Thank you so much, Lana, and thank you to Thomas and everyone at MoonPath Press for your support with this book and for believing in my poetry. And thanks to Shawn, I'm really happy to be your pressmate and look forward to hearing you read today. And then thank you, all of you who showed up for support and for poetry. It's always a good day for poetry. It's a good day to be a Seahawks fan. And it's also International Day of Peace. And that is a United Nations holiday that was originally intended to be a 24-hour ceasefire around the world. And now it's celebrated in communities throughout the world. And to me, poetry and peace are very interconnected. So I'm really happy to have this reading on International Day of Peace. I have 10 poems from the book that I'd like to share with you. The first section of the book is on water. So each poem in that section relates somehow to water. So the first 3 poems I'm going to read for you are around that theme. Dinner Party in Boston. Wave remnants lap the edges of my memory. It was 30 years ago when we kissed in the ocean house on stilts. The Atlantic's wintry breakers spanked the salted wood beneath our feet like a metronome. Surrounded by water, yet haunted by thirst, I kissed you in the hallway, and your cheeks turned to pure fire, pomegranate red, the juicy tide of your body rising. Cool mist from the surf seeped in through the old home's joints, dampening the flames. We resumed mingling, talking small, knowing that soon we would fall into each other's ocean and be quenched. So that poem opens the book. And then this next poem, it's very short. It closes out this section on water. The heart's colossal sea. The human heart is 73% water, the earth's surface, roughly that. If all my past loves were tributaries leading to the heart's colossal sea, how long before I'd drown? Or would I surf their waves to shore, keeping at least one good thing from each of them to buoy me? This next poem is called Words for Water. It's after Li Young Lee's poem, Words for Worry. And one of the things I love doing as a poet is engaging other poets. And he's one of my favorites. And I got to meet him in April, and I was able to give this poem to him, which meant a lot to me. Words for Water. Another word for mother is water. Water is the swimming from which life emerges. Water is the freedom of holding that makes dancing possible. Another word for daughter is love. Another is tenuous. And another is, did I hear you whisper in the night? So many words for daughter, she who explores, discovers, and returns, but only one word for mother. And sometimes a woman is both water and love, indistinguishable in union. Sometimes daughter is the one who never emerges, who never explores, discovers, or returns, the absent life, lost too soon, even before being seen, but not before the water held her in the swimming for a short time. The water held, not the arms, but the water, until both let go, but not before making someone the ocean. And that is one of two poems in the book about my miscarriage, and that this one is more abstract than the other one. But okay, so let's see. This one's a little different. A few years ago, when I had COVID, I was just doing a lot of reading, and I was reading the anthology that comes out every year, Best American Poetry. And the editor for that year wrote something that inspired me to write this poem. She wrote, "No serious poet believes poetry to be therapeutic." So I had strong feelings about that because poetry is many things and indefinable in some senses, but manifold, right? So I wrote this poem called In Defense of Poetry as Therapeutic, from the Greek therapeuein, to minister to. It's true, when I'm having an asthma attack, I don't reach for Keats or Cannell. I take my inhaler, and within minutes, steadfast science rescues me. But when my heart is filled with grief, I write. When my life is shuttered by loss, I go to the ancient poets to hear what they have to say. They are my lifeline. Their words get me through, prod me towards something, towards going on, towards going on. The only thing that matters in the moment, the only thing that matters ever. Why read and write poetry if not for its curative powers inviting us to wholeness? Yes, poetry is craft. Poetry is community. But above all, poetry is therapeutic. It ministers to. It divines understanding of the fledgling self, and by showing us to ourselves, saves us from our own extinctions. Thank you. Oh, I love all the hearts. Thank you. This next poem is called Origin, and it's the first time I'm reading it in public. Origin, as you know, has a few different meanings. And this meaning is that an origin is an intersection of coordinates, either mathematically or geographically, right? So where an origin is where the points connect. So that's why it's called origin. Sometimes I pretend the reason we keep missing each other is because we live in opposite hemispheres. You are heading out the door for work, just as I am nestling into bed. When I wake up, your savory dinner is done. I haven't yet had my coffee. I am still rubbing my eyes, and look, your day has ended. This is how I imagine the silence between us. It is your summer, and you are waiting for our coordinates to intersect, for that paragon of a moment when we are both awake, while I am here, hoarfrost on my eaves, waiting for that paragon of a moment when we are both alive. It can be hard putting together a poetry manuscript because there's so many different topics of poems that come to me. So I was able to put them into 4 thematic categories, but they're very different. So we go from that where, I'm grieving or missing somebody who is no longer alive to a fun poem like this. And this poem is the only one in the book that rhymes. And it's a true story. Standing ovation for the blue supermoon. Iron Horse Brewery, August 30th, 2023. While the trivia host tallied the scores, everyone flooded out the doors to catch a fresh sight of the legendary night. Many climbed picnic tables and benches, empty-handed after last call quenches, to watch the blue supermoon rise while awaiting news of the prize. Over shipping containers packed with brew, the brilliant orb emerged into full view. In awe, we stood and applauded. We didn't need to be prodded. At the end of the day, we were enchanted with nothing to say. Although some took to howling and calling, it was a bar and there was no brawling. Instead, we gave the moon a standing ovation to celebrate the beauty of creation. So I wrote that poem when I was poet laureate. So the next week when I went back for trivia night, I asked the host if I could have the microphone, and I stood up on the picnic table and I read the poem to everybody. That was really fun. And let's see, this next poem is called God is Everywhere Singing, after Claudia Moreau's You Wouldn't Think. And that poem is a very short poem that is just beautiful and tender and impactful. And so I wrote this poem and then I sent it to Claudia, who lives in Wyoming. And then when it got published in a journal, I sent her that journal. And we have a sweet correspondence going back and forth now. God is everywhere singing. I forget, I do, who I really am, that elusive, salvific strand of truth slips from my grip into turbid eddies at the river's edge. As it tosses in whirlpools among reeds, I forget how close to God I am. Just a breath away, and that's the bone-deep knowing that gets lost in the wily construct of time. Within my breath, I can hear God sometimes. Once the water settles and the wind has tucked itself in, and the river turns pink from the dome of dusk above, then, I remember then, who I am, where I'm from, and where I'm headed to, I grasp in one coherent resonance. Although this neon alchemy doesn't happen nearly enough to offset the grief I wear like a woolen winter coat, even on summer evenings when stars twinkle in my drink and I dream of a different, more peaceful life. A lone crow poised on a tree limb, a linden leaning from the slope wind, caws as the sun glistens on its feathers glossed with midnight. This is all that is happening right now. The sound is jarring, startling, but I hear you singing. And I have two more poems. I thought this was apt to read on International Day of Peace. When we are loved enough, then peace comes. I whisper improvised poems along your drought-riddled skin. You lay in the quiet, thirsty for any drip of kindness left in words. You have longed for such tenderness to return, to quench you at dusk. You miss your mother's lullabies, how her exhalations mingled with prayers like sunlight on a river. The world threw its cloak over your ears. Almost forgotten is the honeyed flow, the rhythm and timbre of words when spoken with love. The echo is not completely lost. There remains a vibratory presence that pervades your cells with enfoldments of belonging. You drink from the cusp of language under the tent of my breath, and it all comes back. This feeling loved, and you remember enough to heal. It's interesting as a poet when you release your poems into the world, you might have your favorites and you think, wow, I hope this can impact people. And then maybe nobody responds to it, but then they respond to another poem that you've done, right? And so this kept happening to me over the past 4 years since I wrote this poem called Make Believe, that this seems to be the one that really resonates with people. And it's about a broken wrist, but as you'll hear, it's about more than that. Make Believe. No one believed the hairline fracture of my wrist except you, the 8-year-old girl trapped in my 8-year-old body, crying alone in the pink room, holding your koala, while outside the adults laughed over their dry vermouth. The doctor had to point to the shadowy sliver on the x-ray before my parents believed me. It wasn't the first or last time I needed external backup as proof. If emotions had x-rays, I'd have an easier time explaining myself. I could point to the ashen fissures, the inlets of brokenness and pain, and others would believe me automatically. The 8-year-old girl trapped in my 50-year-old body is wondering, what's it like to be believed automatically? Thank Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Marie, for that wonderful reading. Yeah, in a book full of wonderful, just beautiful, amazing images. You read one of my favorites, which is from "When We Are Loved Enough, Then Peace Comes." That line, "You missed your mother's lullabies, how her exhalations mingled with prayers, like sunlight on a river." God, I just feel that one. I see it, I feel it. What a beautiful image. So many beautiful images. Thank you. And now we'll hear from Shawn Aveningo Sanders. A little bit about Shawn. Shawn Aveningo Sanders grew up in the suburbs of St. Louis, Missouri. A true show me girl at heart, she loves writing and reading poems that show instead of tell stories to stir emotion and move the needle forward on the empathy meter in hopes of creating a more compassionate world. A proud mom of three and Nana to one adorable little girl, she shares the creative life with her husband Robert in Oregon, where together they have published over 160 poetry books through their press, The Poetry Box. Shawn's poetry has been published in many, many literary journals, including One Art, Calyx, and Sheila Nagig. She was also the editor of the Poeming Pigeon Journal from 2014 to 2024, and that was an incredible journal. Shawn has published a previous chapbook titled What She Was Wearing that reveals her Me Too secret after 40 years. And it's an incredible chapbook. This chapbook with MoonPath Press, Pockets, was a finalist in the Concrete Wolf 2024 Chapbook Award. Shawn, please unmute and read for us.
Well, thank you, Lana. What a beautiful gathering this is. It's such an honor to be here with all of you today. And what a wonderful opportunity to be reading poems with Marie Marchand. She's such a talented poet. Her book is absolutely beautiful. If you haven't read it yet, I highly recommend it. Thank you, Lana, for believing in my work and publishing this collection. You are such a generous and thoughtful publisher. This is the first time I've been on the other side of the book publishing equation, and it was such a delight to work with you and your just absolute top-notch team. I really enjoyed it. So today I will be sharing poems from my new book, Pockets. And it's kind of an eclectic collection with one common thread, and that is within each poem, you'll find the mention of a pocket. It was kind of funny. I kept finding this word popping up in my poems, and I thought, yeah, usually when you keep using the same word too many times, you try not to use it anymore. And I decided just to kind of lean into it instead of censor it, and hence this collection came to be. I'll start with the first poem in the collection, which I think maybe a lot of poets out there might be able to relate to. Our timeless compulsion. What is this compulsion? To toil away in a tiny room with its checkerboard floor and worn out window on the second story, which is really just a half story on the ivy covered north side of the house. This compulsion we have to rise at dawn, to sit at an old wooden table with a broken, wobbly leg, propped up by a Britannica that no one needs anymore because we all walk around with Google in our pocket. We who once scribbled with quill across parchment, then pen over pad, to now perhaps peck on a laptop. Either way, the day always starts out blank. like our stare across the room's void, the gaze through the window's gauze, then up to the ceiling, waiting for that spark, that line, that first inkling we have something new to say. This compulsion to slash, to rewrite, cross out chatty, loquacious sings more. Oops, that should be Velicor, not Velcro. Yes, that's the metaphor they haven't heard before. This compulsion to stand before you in the back room of a bookstore, of a bar, of a coffee shop, to pull a folded piece of paper out of our back pocket and say, I wrote a poem. I'd like to share it with you, if I may. I think we might all agree that things are pretty crazy in the world right now. And sometimes what you need is a little comfort food to help you get through the day. Comfort found in a bowl. Fetal pinkies and toesies poke and prod my belly, pregnant with a twin dose of sugar and spice. My little boy tugs the torn pocket on my apron, his saucer eyes aglow, eager to taste his first bowl of cream of wheat. I stir farina into a pot of hot milk and time leap back to a red formica countertop kitchen in a humble bungalow in a Mayberry-like town where Nanny is cooking breakfast for Papa and me. I like mine thick with butter and mounds of sugar and cinnamon. Papa liked his runny as soup, each slurp soaking his gray whiskers. Me, all a giggle. When an unkind world becomes too much, I reach for this comfort found in a bowl. Like the summer, Dad got the diagnosis. Cancer. Again, after his 30-year hiatus from the wretched disease. Losing his second kidney brought dialysis and worry, his two new constant companions. To live, Dad had to give up sweet tea in the summertime, late night runs for frozen custard, a cold bud at a Cardinals game. Forbidden the simplest of pleasures, peanut butter, pizza, chocolate, potato salad. His nurse hands me a list of acceptable foods. My fingers scan, land on cream of wheat, my old friend cream of wheat. I cook a bowl for my dad. He liked it with cinnamon too. You know, Marie, you mentioned how people responded to some of your poems in unexpected ways. And about this poem, I got an email from somebody who bought my book saying, I really like the poem, but man, I hate cream of wheat. So cinnamon. I do love the smell of cinnamon. It's so evocative of this time of year, bringing cooler weather, pumpkin spice lattes, homemade soups. But not all of us get to enjoy these comforts. And as the temperatures drop, I worry even more about our vulnerable, unhoused population. This next poem is a bit of a persona poem. They call me Mary. Another frigid day, I meander along Burnside, where the scent of Charity's chicken soup blends with the smell of a season of humility. I scan the sidewalk for a space, a place where I can keep an eye on my shopping cart while waiting in line for a hot cup of coffee. I continue to wander, wondering what they see, the strangers who stare at their shoes as they pass by, preventing any unintended gaze into my eyes. I keep hoping someone will glance long enough to recognize me, to call out my name. Today, a woman looks at me and calls me Mary, tilts her head in that confused puppy dog way. She hands me a $5 bill. I take the money, fold it into the heart pocket of my tattered bra. Tomorrow I can tell them, my name is Mary. I will watch the volunteer scribble my name with a black Sharpie, draw a happy face on the white paper cup. It will be the most delicious cup of joe. And of course, this time of year means back to school. My kids are all grown up now, but I miss those days of carpools, field trips, even shopping for school supplies. But things are quite different today, and I didn't have the same worries as parents do today. Pocket protectors. Where can I buy a pocket protector? No, not the ones the nerds wear. Not a safeguard against ink stains or pencil-poked holes. I am looking for a tiny talisman, one that will protect a child from the schoolyard bully, or could give a boost of courage to a young woman crossing the picket line at Planned Parenthood, that has the power to silence the rage, shield her from the insults thrown from those who know nothing about her circumstance. Or perhaps a magical token that would turn cerulean when it's safe to trust the helpers, amber when it's prudent to be peaceful, purple when it's time to hightail it and run like a gazelle. Do you know if there exists such a protector? Perhaps one that I could sew into each pocket of my child's clothes, one that's strong enough to stop a bullet. So my kids didn't have shooter drills when they were growing up, but now I'm a grandmother, and hence this next poem. My Eternal Spring. Yesterday's rain squall was scared away by a moonless night. Yet a whisper of petrichor still lingering in the air invites me on a morning stroll before the tasks of the day take their hold. Pummeled daffodils bow their weary heads in submission to the fickleness of an early spring, as I bow mine in the chill of the lion's roar and look forward to the lamb days ahead. Headlines announce another school shooting, another mother pummeled by another senseless act, made even crueler by the paralysis of powerful men who line their pockets with gold. How the town roars and roars and wails and roars. When night falls, my son will read Goodnight Moon to his daughter after her splishy splashy bath. This little girl swaddled in love for a night of teddy bear dreams. Over 1,000 miles away, I try not to think the unbearable. I keep hope my eternal spring. Hope is kind of a hard thing to hold on to these days. This next poem is called Hope Waits Its Turn. Hope waits its turn. Like the number I pulled out from the Take Your Turn dispenser at the DMV, hope waits inside my pocket, taking a seat with me in the green plastic chair, understanding there are other emotions ahead of it, each with their own urgency. Anxiety likes to hover near the counter, staring at the red flickering number on the wall, while logic pretends to be in control, recalculating time as the now serving number grows. But hope watches as integers glow, notices how light shifts ever so slightly through each changing digit, and how zero radiates out from its inner hole. The way hope shows up when we open to each other, asking, "How can I help you today?" So, anybody out there ever experience writer's block? um, One thing that I find that helps is to use a writing prompt for a little jump start. And this next poem was born from a prompt by Katie Dozier on Rattle's Prompt Lines, which is a great place to get prompts. Um, the prompt was to write an ode about something you wouldn't normally think to praise. Ode to Laundry. No one ever dubbed me a domestic goddess. I don't love doing the laundry. I don't praise this act of sorting the grass-stained knees from worn 100-time tees from the delicates. My lace blouse, the baby's frilly Sunday socks, my date night unmentionables. Nor do I praise the meticulous timing of Downy, so my kids can magically enjoy the scent of spring rain in their blankets on winter mornings. No song to the midnight load to clean my teen's new pre-torn jeans, those must-have or she would rather die jeans, ready to wear to school on Monday. Instead, I want to praise the piles of dirty laundry, the heap on the floor next to her, "Sorry, Mom, I didn't have time to make it," bed. His jersey, socks, jockstrap, and those "how am I going to get that stain out" pants. Thigh pads still in their pockets after Friday night's game. The stack of beach towels that leak grains of sand. How I can still smell the sea, our Florida's family vacation. And the secret pile. Flannel plaid pajama bottoms. His favorite tea. A gray hoodie that's impossibly soft from countless tumbles in the dryer. This pile of clothes I hold close each night, adrift in this ocean of a bed. Well, we've done the laundry, and now it's time for a little grocery shopping. This next one's called Labels. Have you ever noticed the women who linger in the canned food aisle? How they stand there in their comfortable shoes, wearing a modest shade of pink lipstick to perk up an exhausted smile, scrutinizing and scanning each label, cans of creamed corn, stewed tomatoes, garbanzo beans, and soup. Is it the calories? Allergies? Price? After weeks in the ICU, he is finally coming home. I pore over every prescription protocol, key in each doctor's number into my phone, make copies of his patient implant card to tuck into my wallet. I buy one of those easy-to-read neon pill caddies so he never misses a dose from the armada of pills fighting for his failing heart. I scan a list from my pocket. How long have I been standing here, holding this can, reading this label? I get it now. What it means to join the sorority of salt seekers, our faithful mission, rooting out sodium dangers at every possible turn. I understand these tedious, loving acts in the monumental task to save the hearts that beat in unison with our own. And we'll do anything to help the ones we love, especially when their health is at risk. I'm going to close out my set with another very personal poem. Um, this one about donating a kidney to my dad. It starts with a epigraph. Fully aware that there is no adequate answer, we offer a tattered, inadequate little bouquet of language. George Bulgare, Poetry Town. 2 years. When they learn he lived for 2 years after the transplant, they always ask me the same 2 questions. Was it worth it? Do you have any regrets? And every time I am gobsmacked. Such audacity slaps me like February wind whipping the Mississippi under the old Eads Bridge. And then I see the innocent curiosity in their eyes. How could they know? About that day we spent at Butterfly House, Dad's first summer sporting my kidney like a new pair of Bermuda shorts. How when he tried on the silly caterpillar cap, I giggled like a 4-year-old little girl. Or the home run taste of Budweiser at our last Cardinal game when Holiday rounded third. How when confessing his mistakes, he found forgiveness in my eyes and could finally drop the stone he carried in his heart pocket. Or how success of the operation isn't measured by mere years, rather by grains of sand, each one adding to the castle a girl built with her dad. How the low tide of his passing could never wash it away. An old man walks into the room. With him, the scent of my father's aftershave. Thanks for listening. I could really feel the love coming through the screen. Thanks for that. I really look forward to chatting with you and answering your questions. So don't be shy and make Lana do all the work. Thanks again.
Oh, thank you so much, Shawn, for that delightful and poignant reading. And I love that 2 years poem. That it's so powerful. The question, the audacity, that's the right word of the question, and that ending. Oh my goodness. The grains of sand, each one adding to the castle a girl built with her dad. Oh, just beautiful. Thank you. And now I would like to open things up to the audience to make comments to our readers or ask any questions they might have. I know people tend to be shy. If you can, raise your virtual hand. You can put a question in the chat. You could try waving, and I'll hope to see you. But does anyone have any questions or comments they wish to ask? It's always a little hard to ask. Well, I do have some questions that I'm willing to start. So, um, well, I mean, I have lots of questions, but I know we don't have that much time. But one of the questions I'd like to ask is just about how the roles that you've played have influenced you as a poet, or influenced your poetry in any way. Marie being the poet laureate and Shawn being a publisher. Has that had any influence on your own work? Either of you want to unmute and answer, feel free.
For me, being poet laureate really lifted up the reality that poetry is a community endeavor as well as an individual private endeavor. And so I really embraced that and I loved that. So it made its way into my own poetry by inspiring me, really. So anytime I would help organize an event and then people would share their poetry and what they'd done, I just always fell more in love with poetry each time, right? Because just it saves us in so many different ways and nourishes us. So that's how it's made its way into my poetry.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah, I think it seems like to me poetry is a communal act. The sharing, the listening, the creation. We're always, kind of communicating with an other, whether it's someone we'll meet and be able to discuss our poems with, or someone we may never know, who will read it and just be touched or enriched by them.
Well, I'd have to say, I have to echo Marie's feelings about how inspirational it is to be exposed to so many other people's work. Um, as a book publisher, I get to read all these wonderful manuscripts coming in, and unfortunately, I don't get to publish every one. But it's so wonderful to be exposed to so many different styles and voices, and I think that in turn not only inspires me, but it also kind of broadens my idea of what's even possible with poetry. And then of course when I was publishing our Poeming Pigeon anthologies, I had to learn how how to fit the poems together, by different writers on different topics. And so I had to learn how to find that invisible thread that kind of creates the conversation between poems. And I think that skill, helps a lot, like when I try to put together my own collections. And I really don't even think I would have even noticed the whole pocket connection had I not already done so much of that work, on those anthologies. And and then trying to, I think you start to learn, you probably have this, Lana, you start to view your own work maybe through a publisher or editor's eye, even though it's still impossible to be objective about your own work and you do need help. And I have a few writer friends who I trust to help me with that. But it does help to have, that other side of the veil.
Yeah. Oh, well said. Yeah, it's really exposed me to what's possible in poetry that I didn't even know was possible by reading all these manuscripts and yeah, having the privilege to publish others like you and Marie. So
We're
thank you.
so lucky.
Thank
I
you.
think I saw Nate about to ask a question.
Oh yeah, thank you. Not necessarily a question, but more of gratitude. I just wanted to thank you both. I feel that after you both were finished, I realized very quickly that I have some emotions that I haven't been in tune with in a while, and you both really tapped into that. So I really want to thank you because I think I'm more aware of some things that I want to dig deeper on. So much appreciated. Thank you.
A beautiful thing to say, Nate. I just love that. I mean, I think that's one of the reasons we fall in love with poetry because we learn we're not alone and there are other people who experience what we experience and we can find not only hope from these poems, but hope that we can give others by writing them and sharing our own work. So that's beautiful, Nate. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, if there are no other questions or comments, I'll invite each of our poets to read one last poem before we sign off. Um, so, Marie, would you like to read a closing poem?
Sure. Thank you. And thanks again, Lana and Thomas and everyone for being here. As necessary as I want to write a poem where every line counts as much as breathing, where every word is as necessary as oxygen, where if one stanza was removed, the whole architecture of the poem would crumble because every part needs the others that damn much. It would be a poem about what I have lost, because how can I know anything else as intimately, as desperately as that which is no longer under my fingertips, yet is always on my mind, dancing like persistent ghosts, utterly vivid and concrete. These apparitions are more alive for me than this kitchen table, this paper and pen. I want to write a poem where every line counts as much as breathing. Then maybe these ghosts will feel seen and heard, and I can lay what I've lost to rest. Thank you, everyone.
Beautiful. Every poet's ambition, I think, should be that. Beautiful, Marie. Thank you. And now, Shawn.
Well, I'll leave you with the closing poem of my book. It's called "I'd Like to Give the World a Poem." I'd like to give the world a poem. Not world as in singular entity. That's a poem for another day. Today, I want to touch just one man, one woman, one in between, one still deciding. I want to reach the child, the one you hide behind your rib cage. Do you remember that child? Is she ravenous for wonder? When was the last time she tickled your tummy from the inside? Could a poem make your day a little better? Don't worry, you don't have to tell anybody. Yesterday, I read a poem written by no one I knew, 14 lines that stirred me, both the yesterday me and the today me. I shared it aloud with my husband. This poem that spoke of little secret scrapbooks we all carry, collections of snapshots from our everyday lives, the ones that make us feel all warm, fuzzy, nostalgic, loved, and the ones that burden us with a belief we're not enough. The poem grew into a conversation. It gifted us a fresh lens, wiped clean from habit's muck. A little reminder, it's okay. At times we all feel not enough, forgotten, invisible. Don't worry, I see you, and I will feed you a smorgasbord of poems, the ones I cook up, and those from my favorite poetry takeout dive. Let's nourish our inner child. Let's find awe in the everydayness. Let's walk barefoot in the morning dew, pluck a dandelion and blow. Let's watch the explosion of seeds confetti the lawn. Let's celebrate the cheery yellow face of a weed. Let's model its perseverance to keep reaching for the light. Let's take a happy snapshot to tuck into our pocket. Let's always need bigger pockets. Thanks again. I hope you all need bigger pockets to hold an abundance of joy.
Thank you. Thank you again to Shawn Aveningo Sanders and Marie Marchand. Thank you for your inspiration and your compassion and sharing your true human emotions and feelings. Sharing who we are is such an important thing. Thanks to our audience for sharing in this moment. A poem is only ever truly complete when it has a listener or a reader. I hope you'll get copies of books, of the poets' books, either through the poets themselves or through your favorite bookshops, either online or brick and mortar. And let's do this again on Sunday, October 26th, Pacific Time at 3 p.m. for a poetry reading by MoonPath Press authors Victoria Wittenberg and Joseph Powell. Two poets who express the complex hues of living with painterly images. Until next time, may you experience hope renewed every morning and find kindness where you least expect it and poetry everywhere. Remember, we're all in this together. Stay strong, stay safe, stay compassionate. Bye for now.
Thank you.